so that Maokai's going to have a tough time.
And the question is, if you first pick that Maokai, then what do we leave open? Because we've seen Skarner banned, but the interesting thing is we've seen Skarner banned from Team Paria both games. So that instantly says they don't really are familiar with that champion. And that means that that's got to be one must ban that they've got to get rid of. They've already gotten rid of Rek'Sai, so if they get rid of Maokai as well, that opens Elise and Vlad, both definitely high impact champions that Exertus played very well in game 1. So we'll have to see. They've decided to ban the Vlad away, and if they ban this Elise away, then they're going to leave that Skarner open. And the thing is, I'd like to talk more about Skarner, but because he's banned in every single game, I don't really know much about the champion. And
you know, screw talking about him. I want to see him. You know, like I would love to see a high-level team pick up the Skarner. I haven't personally been able to watch any games where that's happened since the changes. But, you know, it depends on whether or not they think Skarner is realistically stronger than Elise, right? Because whichever one is less strong in their eyes, that's the one that's going to make it through. Apparently it's Elise, which I'm not 100% sure I agree with, just because realistically, right, how much can Exertus have practiced Skarner in this short period of time since the patch came out? It's only been like a day or two, right? I mean, it hasn't been very long. I don't feel like that deserves the slot in the bans over Elise.
But what they're basically saying is that we feel that Skarner's so strong, you don't actually have to practice him to play him well.
But then they would have first picked him, wouldn't they?
You'd believe so, but it's strange, really. But the thing is, what it basically says to me is, number one, we don't know how to play the champion because we have to ban it every single game. And two, we're so scared of the champion, we don't care how little we practice with it, we don't want you to play that champion. And the thing that gets me is I don't believe his passive is a stun anymore. So originally, if you got off an ability, his Q 3 times, the next auto attack after that would be a stun, and you get a very short duration. I believe they've moved that to one of his other abilities, so that it's actually a lot harder for him to stun, but he has a lot of other utility. His skills have been moved around a lot, and he just works so differently, and perhaps it's just the fact that they don't even know what Skarner does anymore. Yeah. They're so scared of it that they've just decided, okay, look, let's not bother even trying to figure out what counter picks it, what deals with it, let's just get rid of it. And instead, they've decided to prioritize this Kalista and Nautilus, and I actually really like this, because I think Nautilus is still a very strong pick in the current meta, and Kalista's been actually doing very, very well in all of these games.
I like the fact that you managed to find time to talk about that Skarner like you wanted to, regardless of whether or not it's picked. But in any case, something else that you've talked about multiple times so far this cast, the Lucian is being hovered over right now. Now, he did receive a buff. Now that his allies can proc his speed up for him, in those kiting situations, it's a lot easier to get off. So that could be quite useful against someone like a Nautilus, for example. I like the fact that they're looking at picking it up here. That said, how's the lane gonna pan out against a Kalista? Because Kalista has a lot of pressure on her kit.
Yeah, she, because of her great mobility, she can obviously dodge a lot of the skill shots coming out from the side of Subatomic on that Lucian, but it'll be an interesting one because when Kalista rose to popularity, Lucian kind of fell off, so we really haven't seen very much of that matchup. Nevertheless, it's still an interesting one for sure. I feel as though it's quite skill-based, and knowing when to trade, I feel, will be the most important thing in that bottom lane, because if you have that Winter's Bite on you, you're almost always going to lose, and we know how quick Lucian can pop that Winter's Bite passive, so if that Kalista gets locked up in a quick succession, he's going to be in trouble, and it looks like we're going to get a gangplank.
Oh, yes. I've been waiting for this moment ever since the changes, because, man, do I love playing me some gangplank. Now, before we talk about that, I want to add one last thing to your analysis about the bottom lane. The hallmark of a truly excellent Kalista player is your ability to dodge things with your passive, your martial poise. Now, it is possible to dodge the light slinger, or the piercing light rather, with that passive, but it is very, very difficult. So whether or not I think Kalista can do well in this lane is going to boil down somewhat to whether or not she can consistently dodge the poke that's going to be coming out of Lucian. Now, gangplank. Let's move on to this now, because man, is it exciting. Given that we haven't seen the top laner yet for Exertus, and as much as I think gangplank is strong right now, I do wonder a little bit about that, because I think there are certain lanes which can really cause him some trouble. It looks like we're going to see a Renekton. Now, something that's interesting about Renekton is that with the most recent Juggernaut item changes, we have been seeing for a very long time, when Renekton is picked, he goes for that Ravenous Hydra very early on. It helps him clear waves, it gives him a lot of pressure. Now that you can build Titanic Hydra, which scales off of your health for damage, and Renektons traditionally do build very tanky post-Ravenous Hydra. This is maybe something which people haven't realized is coming, but Renekton might be a lot stronger after the Juggernaut patch.
Yeah, having talked to a few analysts that I'm fairly familiar with, they do feel that Renekton could be rising to popularity, but then at the same time, a lot of the top laners that I speak with say, first problem with Renekton is he's been weak ever since top laners have been prioritizing Flask. So Renekton's strongest point is his early game and the amount of pressure that he can apply. But with a Flask, that becomes a lot harder. It's a lot harder to force people out of lane and apply the sort of pressure that we see. It does look like, yeah, that Heimerdinger is a little bit of a... I do believe that Heimerdinger was... Yeah, it's going to be a Victor. They're going to lock in a Victor, so we're going to see Victor picked up once again. But yeah, going back to this Renekton, two major problems with Renekton. Number one is against Flask users, he just can't apply as much pressure. He can't be super dominant in that early game. But on top of that, he's also at a massive risk of being kited. And who's great at really kiting? Oh yeah, Kalista. And who is he playing against? Oh yeah, he's playing against the Kalista.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't be surprised to see a Righteous Glory. Not something that you see very conventionally on Renekton, purely because it gives you got a lot of mana. But it might be a must item.
What about Dead Man's Plate?
That's also another new item that has recently come out, and it does provide you with a bit more mobility, and it's got a lot of interesting. It's an item that has two unique passives, I believe, and the first unique passive is for every unit you walk, you gain a little bit more movement speed, and you build up more stacks, and the more stacks you have, the more movement speed you get. And then if you use all of these stacks at once, you actually do quite a bit of extra damage. So I do believe it could work, as well as if he decides to... I wonder if he'll go Black Cleaver as well, but then we have to be worried. Is he going to itemize a bit too much on the damage side?
Yeah.
So
I mean, Dead Man's Plate doubles up as a strong defensive item. You get a lot of armor out of it at the very least, which is going to be good, especially when you're going up against something like a Gangplank. Although that said, now that you get so much armor penetration with the barrels, it is mitigated somewhat by the Gangplank. But Dead Man's Plate could be strong for the chase potential. You know, being able to slow someone up after you get onto them could be good, especially given that you also have a dash, right? So you've been seeing a lot of people like Shen, for example. People have been saying he has become very strong after the Juggernaut items have been introduced, because Dead Man's Plate gives him that additional ability to get onto someone on top of his Shadow Dash. Now, for someone like Renekton, who can potentially double dash and get a slow proc off onto someone, that could actually be really, really strong. But, like you said, if he goes for Titanic Hydra, and then he picks up maybe a Black Cleaver, and then he goes like Dead Man's Plate, we're starting to get to a point where, you know, Bacon Piggy is just going to annihilate him. So it's really going to be... I think he'll adapt his build depending on whether Piggy gets strong. And if it's based off of his first game Victor play, I think we might be seeing more like Hex Drinker coming down.
That's definitely a possibility, and I'm a little bit questionable on Cutie Bacon Piggy's summoner's choice this time. I feel as though a Cleanse would be a lot smarter item choice against the single target crowd control coming out from Exertus, and I'm a little bit worried for Cutie Bacon Piggy this game. But at the same time, the one thing that we've seen every game is that Callistas have had ridiculously strong front lines. And we've talked about it over and over and over again. Nobody even touches Callista. So many fights, she just sits at the back line like, throw, 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 throw. You ain't touching me, fool. And she just dances around the map like the hip hop star that she is. And she just gets off so much free damage. And I feel as though a similar thing is going to happen again. But I say that Flash is playing this Gangplank. That front line is not the same as it's always been. So I wonder how much easier it'll be to get onto the back line of Team Paria this game, and how quickly they'll be able to shut down that Callista.
It's a question that I'm interested in myself, because Gangplank, you know, I personally have seen a pretty wide array of builds for him since his rework. You can go very tanky, and potentially with the new Juggernaut items, he can maybe find a similar home to Renekton where he's kind of a hybrid tank damage guy, a Juggernaut, so to speak. But there's always the tried and true crit plank, which I really hope he goes, because ain't nothing quite as satisfying as parlaying a barrel and seeing 3 people instantly take 75% of their health and damage. So,
well, they do have a decent they have Nautilus support, which is just naturally tanky thanks to his base stats and the ridiculous shields that he gets thanks to his W, as well as you have a Gragas who obviously is still going to build tanky himself. So you do have a decent front line. So I feel as though Flash could afford to go that Trinity Force into Infinity Edge build. I feel as though that is a viable option for him. And what I actually quite like out of Team Paria is they're going for a triple threat comp. They do have 3 lanes that are all at massive risk of killing you. And I feel as though that could be a problem for Exertus, because that is the style of composition that Team Paria love to run. And if that team is running at you, like, who do you focus? Okay, Gangplank can crit me for half my health. We should probably kill him. But then Cutie Bacon Piggy's got Death Ray and a Chaos Storm ready to throw on top of my face, so we should focus him. But then there's a Callista consistently throwing out damage, so we should focus her. And this is the problem that you have with a triple threat comp. If you can't pick the right target to kill at the right time, or, you know, if you can't kill them all at once, then, you know, how do you deal with it? And if we think about it, Orianna might be a good solution to that.
I definitely agree. I mean, the thing is about this comp, this lends itself very nicely to how Paria like to play and the sort of team that they are. They are individually all very strong players. So by having several of them be threatening, you know, like you said, triple threat comp, it really lends itself to what they're trying to do with the roster that they've got. Now, before we get into game, one thing I think is worth talking about regarding the Gangplank is what Silver Serpent upgrades he's going to go for. Because I actually have heard quite a few conflicting ideas about this. Now, whether or not he's going to go for the 2 damaging ones, I mean, there's a little bit of more nuance there in the sort of analysis of which one that you would decide to pick. But the utility one is something that I think a lot of solo queue players especially probably overlook. You know, it does offer a pretty massive movement speed buff. And given that they are in a position where they have triple threats who need to deal with a lot of hard engage, giving movement speed to his whole team could be quite massive. Do you think that the ones initiating fights are mostly going to be the side of Paria? Or do you think it's mostly going to be the side of Exertus? Because I think that is a big key point which is really going to determine which ultimate upgrades Gangplank goes for.
Personally, I feel as though Team Paria are the ones looking for those team fights, especially in the early game. But it's a tough one to say because they have a Renekton who's great at team fights. You have a Lucian who's really good at kiting around and doing the damage where it needs to be. And same for Orianna. She just works very well in team fights. So both seem to have very decent team fight compositions. And I wonder who will decide to go for them. I mean, because you have a triple... we say a triple threat comp coming out from the side of Team Paria, but then is Renekton also not a threat? They also sort of have a triple threat composition coming out from Exertus as well.
Depends on how many minutes you are in the game, right?
I guess it's really going to depend very heavily on how the early game goes. And if we're basing it off that, then Team Paria are going to have the edge. Because I feel as though every game, they're the team that has had the better early game performance. And that is because of their individual players. So at the moment, I feel as though Team Paria are in a good situation to take the series 2-1.
I would definitely agree with that. I mean, this might sound a little bit surprising given we've got a Gangplank and it's kind of an untested element in the equation, but I do kind of prefer their team composition. I think the team composition coming from Exertus is a little bit disjointed, right? Like you've got a strong early game between your Renekton and your Elise, but then moving towards the later stages of the game, you've got things like this Orianna who are going to be very useful, but Lucian isn't going to be doing a tremendous amount of damage. So they don't really have a specific point in the game where I'd argue they are miles better, or even maybe marginally better. I think if they have a solid early game, then they'll be strong in the mid game. But if their early game is not strong, they're not at any point going to be really out pressuring or, you know, out compositioning, if you will, the side of Paria.
And the thing about Team Paria is their mid game is actually fantastic. That is the point at which pretty much all of their champions hit their power spike. And if Exertus look to fight then, that could be incredibly risky for them, because I feel as though Orianna needs Death Cap before she has a massive impact, unless she's gained a really early lead. But if things are even, I feel as though she needs that mana regeneration item as well as the Death Cap. And Victor doesn't need that. Victor just needs to upgrade, get a few points in his upgraded Hex Core, maybe even complete his first item, and already he's going to be doing tons of damage. So it's a scary one for Exertus. They're going to have to play this very well, but once again, I feel as though I agree with you. I feel they've been a little bit outcomped. But we will have to see how they decide to play this one out.
Something really cool that I just want to touch on. Gangplank placed 3 non-overlapping barrels and used that to instantly reset his passive 3 times and do 3 bunches of barrel armor mitigation damage to the critical boost. Really allowed the side of Paria to quickly take down those Krugs without taking hardly any damage.
Yeah, and once again, we do see the double jungle coming out. This was basically just to prepare in the event of a lane swap, but early level 2 in the bot means a lot of damage coming out onto I'm Best Support.
Yeah, thankfully that minion blocked the last Winter's Bite, otherwise he would have been taking a lot more pressure. Oh, I'm Best Support not doing quite as well with that dredge line as he did with the Rocket Grab last time around. And thankfully for him, being the burly, tanky guy that Anonymous is, he didn't take too much punishment as a result of that.
Yeah, but they are trading a little bit in the bot.
Oh man, yeah, that's a lot of damage going down onto him. He's so tanky though that it's not really making much of an impact.
Yeah, and this is the fantastic thing about Nautilus. He is still an incredibly strong support in the current meta along with Alistar. And Alistar isn't something that we haven't seen, unless we did see it in the first game.
First game, yeah.
Yeah, we did see it in the first game, but they decided that that wasn't worth continuing. Already you can see so much harass coming out from Cutie Bacon Piggy. Just a replication of that first game. And oh, Dan.
Yeah, Dan doesn't want it to go the way of that first game, though, in the early game. Comes in here, puts a lot of pressure down. I didn't actually see a cocoon go out. I'm not sure if he used it there, but they are certainly going to get a nice amount of damage down at the very least in that early gank attempt. Kind of equalizes the amount of health across both of those mid laners.
Yeah, so hook does land.
Yeah, Subatomic does get hooked up there, but immediately a good concussive blow stun, keeping I'm Best Support from really continuing the pressure. And Memesies, I'm surprised that he decided to go down there at that point. With the way it pushed the way it was difficult for him to really find an opening. Yeah,
and I really like that disengage coming out from Subatomic and Wiz. He dashed away, as well as so he initially dashed away, and then Wiz jumped onto him, putting that massive shield up in front of him, and that kept him going. And we can see that after that second game of the series, 54% of the community do actually believe in Team Paria. So the vote has swung slightly into their favor. And do remember, guys, that you can vote. We will continuously update this as the game goes on over at ESL.gg UK Prem Vote. So make sure you do vote for your preferred teams. And yeah, so keep that going, guys. Meanwhile, we can see across the map a massive CS advantage built up in that middle lane for Cutie Bacon Piggy, and he has had a fantastic series.
He absolutely has. Every single game, I would say, he's really been the central focus of Paria as a team. He's really been doing a good job, barring getting caught a few times in that first match. Now, this matchup, the Orianna versus Victor matchup. Orianna is one of the few heroes, you've told me this before, that can deal nicely with a Victor because of the shield. If you just watch this game, though, it wouldn't look like that. So talk me through why Imbolite is struggling so much more.
I feel as though he's just playing scared. Like, he's not, as we know, Menzies.
Yeah, catching out Dan here a little bit. Dan may be looking to turn it around and does get a lot of damage down. But with Cutie Bacon Piggy in the wings, it is difficult to justify going in any more than he did. Now Flash and Chriso in the top lane, trading nicely. Eating oranges does help a lot when he gets stunned up by a massive sword, so he's doing all right.
Yeah, and I was talking about how Renekton gets countered by Flask, and then Flash decides not to go Flask. But I suppose he didn't really need to, because he obviously did get the double jump, but he got the early camp, which means he got, well, you can see he's still got 3 pots left available to him, and so I suppose I do understand. But going back to this mid lane matchup, I just feel as though the great thing about Orianna is she can actually trade very well with Victor, because she has her empowered auto attacks, or Flash.
Yeah, Dan coming up here, uses that second stun after Eating Oranges has already gone down. Now Subatomic in the bot lane gets stunned up. Support getting turned on to immediately afterwards, though. A relatively even trade thanks to the passive of Callista's Sentinel, however. Lots of action, but not much coming from it just yet.
Yeah, and this is something that I didn't realize, but happens quite a lot. The moment a hook lands onto Subtomic, he just immediately dashes away and then whizzes on top of him to protect him. So it's very difficult for Pug to follow up on any of the engages from I'm Best support. And I guess that proves as a massive advantage for the bot lane of Exertus. At the moment, they are holding on to a fairly comfortable CS lead, and to be honest, I feel like at the moment they're not winning this 2v2.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, and I think the fact that we've got a Nautilus into a Braum is kind of difficult. Nautilus absolutely excels when you've got a squishier support that you're going up against, because you just blow them up with all your CC. Against someone like Wiz, he really weathered the storm, deal with that lockdown, and on top of that, any champion with a hook that pulls them to the opponent is going to struggle against the Braum, because Braum can immediately, you stand behind me, and just meet up with them and stop that pressure from going down. So Nautilus maybe not the strongest pick in this bot lane matchup. I do think he's going to do wonders for the side of Paria later on in the game, though.
Yeah, with that ultimate, it's definitely easy for him to lock down a target, and with another immobile mage in the form of Orianna, it's going to be tricky for Imbolite to survive. We've already briefly discussed how strong that Gangplank ultimate is, and if you have two ultimates from Gangplank and Nautilus come out, it's going to be very difficult for Imbolite to get away.
Oh, I absolutely agree, and Imbolite does seem to like his immobile mages, doesn't he? Every single game, basically, he has picked something that is not particularly mobile. Now, Memzies, he is coming down in this bot lane, does get the body slam onto Wiz, and they're trying to pile everything onto him right now, but with that Unbreakable, he's doing a good job of getting away. Flash forward by Subtomic is maybe going to pick him up the kill onto I'm Best support. It does indeed. Wiz, is he going to stay alive? He does. Double kill for Subtomic as well. Chriso is coming in, trying to get onto Pugs. There's a flash forward. There is Imbolite roaming down with a great shockwave, and a triple kill from Subtomic early on in this game, really setting up Exertus off to a nice start. Piggy waiting in the wings, flashes forward, Wiz! He's not even gonna go down. Oh my god, that is about as bad as it could have gotten for the side of Paria.
His flash is down.
Yeah, flash coming in, boom, pop. That is gonna be a really nice parlay, but in the meanwhile, Piggy was trying to sort of bait them into that and went down to Dan. So they defend the dragon, but they lose a kill in response, basically. Wow. Wow, I'm going to have a look at his health there. He would have been on about 1, actually. Real numbers here, guys. That would be the health of Subtomic after that parlay there.
Yeah, we should have a replay coming up on your screen in just a little while, and that was such a massive turnaround play for the side of Exertus. You can see, I don't know why they used that ultimate primarily. I felt as though that ultimate should have been held for I'm Best support. The heal does keep him a little bit alive, but look at the positioning of that TP. It's in such a good place, and it's just that exhaust, though, right there under the tower was just so good. It kept him alive just long enough to be able to pick up that second kill, and with 3 kills going on to Lucian this early on into the game, that's not going to be very good for Team Paria. And we hyped up how good their early game was, but this game, the early game, is definitely not going in their favor.
I do think that's at least partially due to the compositions. I mean, we've got Elise, Rek'Sai, Braum. All of these champions can perform quite nicely early on. Even Lucian, you know, when comboed with a Braum, they make each other stronger. So their early game is quite solid. On the flip side, I don't think we have a comparably strong early game coming out from the side of Paria. That said, the reason they've been winning early game up until this point has probably been mostly due to their play rather than their picks. Now Flash, having to use that ultimate in the top lane just to get some push going in his favor, that's not ideal for him, especially when there's been a lot of action going on across the map. You want to be able to hold that cannon barrage for a fight.
Yeah, and I can't quite remember if they were level 6 coming into that bottom fight, but because I'm a little bit surprised that the ultimate wasn't used in that bottom fight. It would have probably helped pretty substantially, and that is something that we haven't talked about, the ability that it is a global ultimate, and it can have an absolutely massive impact in any like 2v2, 3v3 skirmishes. Having all that additional damage come down can really swing a fight into your team's favor, and We can see Dan might have caught Memses.
Yeah, he does indeed catch out Memses and actually does a respectable amount of damage. Body slam gets blocked. Explosive cask having to be used just to peel Dan off of him. So that is very bad news for the side of Paria. It really shuts down their ability for Memses to gank for a little while.
So we can see that the top lane tower did actually go down, and I feel as though this is one of the problems with running a carry sort of top laner into Renekton, because realistically what you want to do is try and stack armor, because that's what deals with Renekton the best, and by building damage as well, I feel like you're never going to out-trade him in the early game, especially on a Gangplank. When he gets his Trinity Force completed, when he gets an Infinity Edge completed, I feel he's going to be in a much better position. But Cutie Bacon Piggy.
Yeah, he is getting caught up under the tower here. Shockwave, all kinds of CC going down onto him. Chriso picks up the kill credit for that one. And this might be a quick rotation onto the tower itself, or maybe Dragon. We do also have, it looks like, a fight in the bottom lane. That is a ton of damage onto Pugs. He's going to have to buck right on out of there. And this really does provide so much space for Exertus to go roam towards that Dragon. They've already got top towered, no worries up there. Looks like Flash is struggling to even push the wave out quickly. So Exertus, for the first time, like you were saying, really having a solid early game performance.
I do believe Lucian actually got a double crit there, which is why Pug took so much damage. And man, that having 3 kills that early on into the game is just terrifying. But I really liked what Subatomic did. The moment I'm Best Support tried to engage, rather than try and retreat, he actually went forward because the hook landed onto the wall, took I'm Best Support completely away from his AD carry, and that basically gave a free avenue for Pug to attack. And that was really impressive from Subatomic. He's having a much better early game this game than he has in the previous games. And things are not looking good for Team Paria right now. What they need to do is they need to slow down. They need to wait for these mid-game power spikes. They need the Trinity Force to be completed on Flash. They need one item to be completed on Pug. And they need that the higher damage second item to be coming out from Bacon Piggy. So they need to slow things down. Right now, they're definitely in a good position. Flash can freeze that top lane, but I don't think Exertus are going to let them. I feel as though Chriso, as we've already seen in that middle lane, is going to try to roam around and have as much impact on the map as he can.
You know, one thing that Paria have going for him that we haven't explicitly talked about up until this point is the fact that Gangplank, especially if he goes for crits, becomes a monster later on in the game. They have mid-game power spikes with something like the Trinity Force on him, but they also have a decent routine. And I think that might be something they want to look towards. Memses, in the meantime, picking up a knock-up onto Dan. We do see Chriso roaming down, however. Flash, can he find something here? He is going to get a nice bit of damage off. Not quite, actually. I'm going to go for one of those barrel plays. Subatomic in the bot lane, doing a lot of damage. Culling coming out. Flash being forced for my Pugs. And actually, I believe that he dodged out from that piercing light with his passive there. So like we were talking about, really basically secured his life there.
So we can already see now Subatomic doing some real work on this Lucian. And I did say in previous games that this is one of his comfort champions, definitely a champion that he used to play fairly regularly. And now with that Infinity Edge completed, as well as Berserker's Greaves, Pug is definitely going to have an even harder time every time he comes back into lane. But now that they have that advantage in the bottom lane, they can translate that into the mid game, because Pug is so weak at this point. He doesn't even have an item completed. Just going to have a quick look at the gold to see whether or not... He doesn't even have enough gold right now to afford it. So he's in a really tough spot right now. You can see he's 1,500 gold down behind his lane opponent. And thanks to that early play, Exertus can just abuse this incredibly fed Subatomic.
You know, this is one of the issues with picking a Kalista as well. If you do fall behind early, you really do hardly anything, because your Ren doesn't do enough damage, it's not a high enough level. And on top of that, you don't have enough base damage to make your auto attacks meaningful. When you go for something like a Bloodthirster first, too, you don't even have crits. I mean, what does Pugs do right now? Flash, he's trying to fight with Chris up this top, and does get a crit. There's the ultimate going down as well. That is just so much damage. Chriso cannot deal with it. Flash, now that he's picked up that Triforce, is a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, ultimate goes down.
Yeah, they are trying to fight in the mid lane. It looks like Paria actually being the ones trying to initiate this great dredge line onto Subatomic. That has set up the fight in a brilliant way for Paria. They're not going to be able to find too much more easily here, although Imbolite walks in a bad spot, Fate's Call drops I'm Best support right onto him. Flash forward, dredge line. Piggy's got a lot of damage here. But with that barrier from Imbolite, he's still alive. Piggy has no mana. He manages to get out of there. Great kiting coming out of Imbolite. Memesies might be biting off more than he can chew as well, trying to pick up that red buff. And it does look like we're going to see Paria being forced to back up here. They did a good job in that fight, but at the same time, considering how amazing their initiation was, I think they ought to have gotten even more.
Well, they did successfully get quite a lot of summoners out during that fight. I feel as though, lots of damage on Imbolite.
Oh, he is in a bad spot right now. Pug's picking that one up with that Pierce. Chriso, in the meantime, in the back line, does get that return kill onto I'm Best support. Dragon, fortunately, for the side of Exertus, isn't quite up yet. 1.5 minutes. They should be able to back up, heal up, get those respawns, and return to it to try and contest. There is a big push coming in, though, for Paria in the top lane. Chriso needs to deal with that. He doesn't have teleport available, so I'm expecting him to just run up there, push the wave, get back downtown to go to that dragon fight.
I feel as though these fights are very reliant on Chriso, because the moment he was taken down, you can see that Team Paria immediately went for a fight, even without any support from Flash. And that beautiful hook onto Subatomic is the main reason why they won that fight. If they can keep Chriso out of the fight, we know now that Flash can hold his own, and he's already working towards that Trinity Force in that top lane, so Flash is definitely going to be a scary thing to take into consideration. And meanwhile, we can see that if they can keep locking down Subatomic, we do have to recognize that they have the team composition to do that, as we just saw. So as long as they can keep doing that, as long as they can keep shutting down Subatomic, they should be able to come out ahead in these fights. And this next Drake fight is definitely going to be a big one.
It absolutely is. And before it kicks off, I want to spotlight one item thing that's going on right now. We're seeing Ravenous Hydra on Chriso. He did not decide to go for that Titanic Hydra. So he apparently is under the impression, and he might be right, that Renekton is better just doing more damage.
So he has decided to go for that damage build, and I guess it's because he wants to be able to 1v1 Flash, but we've already seen how well that goes for him. And meanwhile, we can see, Chriso taking a bit of chunk of damage there. But they are posturing around this dragon right now. It has just spawned, but the vision control coming out from Team Paria is just so superior right now. And to be honest, I feel as though in our entire best of 3 series, it's around this time that such a massive fight has happened that swung the game in either team's favor. So I feel as though at this point in the game, it's going to be really important for both teams.
Absolutely, and I think this dragon is likely going to be the setting for the fight that you are describing. We do see every single member walking down here at the moment. Big problem, though, for the side of Exertus. Chriso does not have teleport. He's got to run down here. We're already seeing it being started off by Paria. Flash, on the other hand, does have his teleport available. Also has Cannon Barrage if he wants to globally join. But Paria giving up a lot of ground immediately. Apparently they feel threatened enough by the pick potential and the fact that they can maybe go here and get a mid lane tower that they don't want to just go for it. Oh, that was a great cocoon, though, onto Piggy. He's got a flash on out of there. Here comes the Cannon Barrage, trying to get a few people, but it's not in a great spot. Memesies goes down, but not before getting a good explosive cast, keeping Wiz in the fight. And this is just going to be Paria chasing on to the rest of the team. Fate's Call doesn't instantly find someone, and whilst the members of Paria try to catch on to Imbolite, Chriso just goes in, senses blood, and jumps onto the back line. Flash doing a good job juking out from that Windows Bite, but is he going to be able to get out of here? It does not look like it. Pugs, he needs to get out of here, man. One more attack, concussive blow. Subatomic picks it up. That just was horrible for the side of Paria. I don't know how else to put it. Everything is falling to pieces for them right now.
And this is what we talked about, a massive, important fight that's going to swing the game in one team's favor. Initially, that looked really bad because both Chriso and Dan took so much damage before the fight really kicked off. But that explosive cast knocking Elise and Wiz into the team felt like the fight was pretty much won for Paria. And this is the point at which it swung. Both Pug and Nautilus go after Imbolite, and that completely leaves Cutie Bacon Piggy alone to this Renekton. And that is the moment this fight swings around. You cannot underestimate the damage coming out from Chriso, especially with this, with the Ravenous Hydra that he's decided to build. And now with 5 kills on top of Chriso, 4 kills on top of Subatomic, it's not looking good for Team Paria.
It is definitely not, and I'm interested to see, we talked about it a lot before the game, where's Chriso going to go from here? Because Deadman's Plate, yes, it's a strong item, but he has not had any issues getting on people this game. What might be better is the reworked Randuin's. Oh, he's actually going to go Sunfire. All right. So Randuin's could have been good against some crits, but that said, Pugs hasn't decided to go for those early. Chriso, he's teleporting in here, gets onto Piggy. There's the stun. Wiz coming in as well. That is a lot of damage. Goodbye, Piggy.
Is this game 1? Because I'm pretty sure this is pretty much exactly what happened in game 1. Cutie Bacon Piggy, stop overextending. Every time he's pushing himself up into the middle tower, up into the middle lane when he's got no towers. You've got 2 towers down. Stop going mid lane. Because every time you do, Chriso's going to teleport in with his home guards and he's going to set himself up a pick. Unfortunately for Cutie Bacon Piggy, this has been, in terms of his scores, one of his worst performances throughout the game. And I feel like Chriso's just got a grudge to settle because he is focusing him and shutting him down in every single team fight.
He definitely is, and you say one of his bad performances, his only bad performance really. He did play pretty good in the first 2 games, but like you said, he needs to be more aware of his surroundings. That could be improved by better vision on the side of Paria, but at the same time, you've got to be expecting Exertus to be sitting in your jungle at this point. They have a team comp that is good at getting picks. Where are you going to get picks the easiest? In your damn jungle. You got to be careful.
Exactly, and the thing is, you can see the vision line for both teams. Exertus have extended theirs up into the river, but they still have plenty of vision in their own half of the jungle. They probably should have been aware of that TP coming. And unfortunately for Cutie Bacon Piggy, you should have been aware of it anyway because of how often it happened in the first game. And I feel as though it's just a bit of a solo queue mistake. People prioritizing farm over looking at their map. They see that mid lane is pushing, they see that there is farm available to them to get in that middle lane, so they go for it. They sort of blindly look at it without considering the position of the enemy team. And there is constant communication going on in Exertus, and Chriso is saying, the moment he overextends in mid, I'm going to go. And you can see that happening over and over and over again. And unfortunately, that might be a massive downfall for the side of Team Paria. They've definitely put up a strong performance in this best of 3, but things are not looking good in this final game.
They really just need to push this as late as they can at this point, because Renekton will fall off eventually. Right now, he's still doing respectable damage, but later on, less so. They need Flash to get to a point where he's finished IE as well.
Yep.
Those big crits, if he can hit multiple people with the barrel parlays, that is going to be something that could bring them back into it. Right now, though, the recipe for success for Paria is definitely just farm, play safe, don't overextend.
Man, that is exactly true, and you can see the gold difference building up now. So 2,000 gold lead for Chriso in this top lane, and it's a 2,000 gold lead for the AD carries. They're pretty much a whole item up on their counterparts, and that is the reason why these fights are swinging so massively in Exertus' favor. And Flash has to be burnt for my best support.
Instant Flash, not even a slight hesitation from my best support. He knows that at this point, the carries on the side of Exertus and Renekton, to be honest, have the potential to just blow him up, so he's got to get on out of there. That foregoes a lot of vision control for Paria. They are now just moving up directly into the top lane jungle, getting all these wards. They might be able to threaten that pink ward in the death bush by Wraiths or Raptors. This is a tough spot for Paria to be in, because they don't want to play safe to the extent where they just wait in base. They want to at least be able to go get some jungle.
Oh, Dan.
Oh, Dan finds that cocoon onto support, picks it up instantly. No questions asked.
Yeah.
Did you see a... Oh, this is what I mean, okay. This is single-handedly the thing, I think, that is going to bring Paria back, if anything is going to bring them back, okay? You got barrels for days coming out of Paria. You got Gragas barrels, you got Gangplank barrels. Hopefully, those Gangplank barrels can really do some work once that Infinity Edge is picked up.
Callista puts Nautilus in a nice little barrel when she ships him
Oh,
off to the
yeah,
enemy
good
team.
point, yeah.
But you can, that immediately Exertus are like, okay, we have an advantage, let's push it. And then
Pop.
Gangplank is like, oh hey, why don't you share a drink with me? Bang, gone. And they're like, okay, we've had enough drinks for today, and they decide to back off
They're
away from that.
lightweights.
Yeah, well, that is definitely the case, and but they do successfully extend their vision line just a little bit deeper. They're now scratching on the surface of Team Paria, and Dan, he's like, no.
Oh, looking for another one on the Nautilus. Gets that cocoon. He goes down immediately. Cannon Barrage actually getting popped there as well, which is not ideal. Pug, He might get caught out by Chriso right now. Chriso does have a lot of damage. Look at that. He is going to go in, double jump forward, has to flash at the end there, but I don't think he minds too much, as it is going to allow for Baron attempt number 1 coming out here for Exertus. It's going to be a difficult shout for Memes. If he can find it, it'd be good. There's a teleport coming in.
No.
Wow, that has actually managed to make them back off. And actually, Memes, he's keeping Baron low enough health that he's threatening it right now. This is kind of bad news for Exertus. Look how much damage they've had to take from that Baron now. That was a smart play by Memeses.
Really?
Kind of. If he'd been engaged onto, you never know what would have happened. But
yeah, I mean,
could have worked.
That was incredibly scary. The moment I saw him dash over, I thought, uh-oh, that's it. He's gone in the moment they've disengaged from the Baron, and that is not going to be good.
Gotta go big or go home, man.
Yeah, he definitely went big in that situation, and
then he went home because he just dashed over the wall.
Exactly, he went home. He very smart.
Why have one when you can have both, right?
Yeah, he was like, oi, boys, do you want a drink? Because the Baron wants to drink with me, and unfortunately they decided, no, we've had enough drinks for today. They decided to back off, and
this isn't a very PG game. No. You know, there's a lot of drinking going on here. I'm a bit worried for the livers of a few of the members of both teams.
It's fine. Gragas has been doing it for years now. I think he can pull it off, and I'd argue he's drinking more champagne than anything else, so I'm sure that's healthier for you than most alcohol.
I'm not sure. I'm definitely not sure. Maybe it's Prosecco.
Perhaps, you know, who knows?
We are in the UK. That's like more common.
We should find out what Gragas' preferred beverage is, but nevertheless, Baron doesn't really go over to either team, and 6,000 gold lead still in the favor of Exertus Esports. They are going to steal away this blue buff. Oh yes, Dan does slide that one away, and Dragon is live, so if Team Paria are going to be making any plays, it'll be now that they're going to be looking to do it. You can see Exertus extending their vision line, getting good vision control around the Drake, and that's pretty much going to give them this third dragon for free.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they were going to go for a dragon fight soon, this would have been the one to go for, just because we've just seen the power spike of Infinity Edge on Flash. But without teleport available, I think prioritizing pushing some of the other waves is probably more important, because we really want to see a late game coming out of Paria here. This isn't quite late enough, I would argue.
Yeah, definitely the case, and they are going to gain vision around this Baron once again, and right now, Exertus is just concentrating on controlling this vision so they can look for this Baron.
And again, we do have Memesies nearby. Maybe going to try and go for a skill this time. Piggy's here as well.
Ultimate.
A big Chaos Storm could be big. Got Dan taking a lot of damage. Cannon Barrage really doing some work there. That is going to back him right off. So with how low a few members of Exertus just got, this could be a big opportunity for Paria.
Yeah, now they're going to be able to reclaim their own vision around. But you can see the teleport from Chriso.
Oh, that might not have been good, though, because a body slam over the wall gets him right into position. We are seeing I'm Best Support Flash right in there. Dan is so low after that dragon fight. Dan goes down. Chaos Storm is on everyone right now, just melting their health. Pugs, he is in a bad spot, though. And Subatomic, he really is just too strong for Paria right now. Even with, I would argue, a good setup coming out of Paria, they just couldn't lock down the one target that is really important to lock down. That's Paria. Sorry, not Paria, Subatomic. He made it all happen that fight.
Yeah, and the one thing I want you to pay attention to is to who Wiz is exhausting in this fight, because coming into this, that exhaust is so crucial in the winning of this fight. You can see Chriso, he is very tanky at this point, so he's able to take a lot of damage, and I'm Best Support goes in, locks down Imbolite a fair amount, but the exhaust coming onto QT Bacon Piggy pretty much denies all of his damage, prevents him really from being able to clean up that fight as he should have, and the moment the front line immediately falls from the side of Team Paria, it's just a clean up at that point, and this is what we talked about. Every time we've seen Kalista, Kalista's had a ridiculously strong front line, but with a Gangplank, it's just not there.
Not to mention the fact that due to Kalista being so far behind this game, Pugs does not have any particularly good items at this point. You know, he does decent damage to the squishier members like Imbolite and Subatomic, but you have 3 tanky members with a lot of armor on the side of Exertus. There's no armor penetration, there's no crits, there's no tank killing potential.
Let's see now, they are beginning to bang. Chriso doing what he can to keep them away.
He is doing a good job here, and actually, that's a well-positioned ball potentially. Oh my god, that is a steal though coming in from Memes. He does his job perfectly. I'm Support nearly going down just to Chriso, but not quite. 1 kill for a Baron, I think I'd probably take that.
Meme successfully steals away the Baron. That is such a massive steal for the side of Team Paria. And realistically, why are Exertus taking this risk? Why are they willing to risk a Baron steal when they have such a massive lead? They don't need to take risks like that. They could just bait the enemy team out towards them and then look for a fight. And it ends up being the Baron being stolen over. Now Team Paria are going to be able to use this Baron to stall the game out longer, wait for this late game period, and we've talked so much about how strong the late game is for Team Paria, so the longer this game goes, the worse it's going to be for Exertus.
Imagine last fight if Pugs had a Blade of the Ruined King instead of a Bloodthirst, and he had some form of armor penetration. Would have looked very different, basically, is what I'm getting.
Oh.
Getting a tower there is nice for them as well. The fact that I'm surprised they got anything off of it, because even with Baron, you would be expecting Exertus to win fights, but they just weren't in position for it. You know, Paria are definitely looking like they're back in this game. It's tough to say that, given the gold lead that Exertus still have, but looking forward, there are good opportunities for Paria in the near future.
What I really feel that this Baron has given them is momentum. I feel as though when you're behind, what you lose a lot of, Pug.
Oh, Chriso flashing in there, trying to get on the Pugs. He does manage to get stunned, but he's so far ahead of his team. Can he find it? Pugs just gets out of that ultimate from Orianna, and this is actually a great flank coming from Memes. Knocks everyone back in. Chaos Storm did so much. All the AoE damage isn't enough, though. Exertus somehow keeping everyone alive. Subtonic looks relatively untouched. Triple kill for him. One for Imbolite. That's going to be an inhibitor. What on earth just happened? It looked so good at the beginning for Paria, but every single time, no one is on Subtomic.
When we saw the double kill, I thought that was going to be a double kill for Team Paria, and then it was like double kill for Team Exertus. What happened there? That's absolutely insane. We should be able to get a replay up on your screen in just a little while, and that was an incredible fight. I can't believe that all 5 of them died, and they only lost 1 member, and that really gives credit to how tanky Chriso is at this point. You can see such a strong engage. He flashes onto iPug. Doesn't quite get the stun, but he's just sticking to Pug, doing what he can to keep him out of this fight, while the AoE damage is constantly coming out and getting flashed super, super low. And that just quickly stems the fight. And look, that ultimate lands onto 3 members, yet is doing nothing. Chriso is just so tanky that they can't do anything to him, and with very little damage available to iPug, with how far behind he is, he just can't do a thing in these team fights. And Chriso, once again, he's the substitute for this team, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets offered a main spot, because he has been on fire for this best-of-3 series.
He absolutely has, and especially this game, because Burning Swords from Gangplank have been setting him alight more frequently. But, you know, one thing I just wanted to highlight that you didn't touch on was the exhaust onto Bacon Piggy. During the Chaos Storm, during the point where he urgently needed that slight bit more damage to AoE everyone down, he was exhausted. We are going to see Paria pick up their first Dragon of the game today, which is a big deal. That damage boost they need as a late game competition. They need to be on even footing with that 6% boost to 80 and AP. But we're seeing a good rotation here come out very quickly from Exertus. They recognize that Paria are not in a good position to deal with the top lane push, and they're heading straight there. They're just making beeline for it.
My biggest issue right now with Team Paria is the fact that they built no penetration.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
I'm support every single time. Dan has his number. There is another cocoon. This is not good news for Paria. They absolutely need on-death support to be there in these fights.
Haven't you guys learned yet? I mean, they have full vision over your side of the jungle. You can see how much they've extended their vision line literally to the edge of your base. And you can't be walking through your half of the jungle like that without any vision. It's just going to set yourself up to easily get picked out. It's such a common mistake from Team Paria, and that really just shows their lack of experience playing in a 5 environment, because realistically, teams at this level should recognize that without vision, you can't do anything. And Exertus are just using their superior vision control to really take advantage of this game. So, well played by Exertus, and at this point, without any Last Whisper, any Void Staff, or any form of penetration to hit through the ridiculously tanky Chriso, who by himself tanked 3 members and a tower, I just can't see how they're going to win any fights at this point.
I think the answer is they're not, right? You know, they just need to buy more time. With an inhibitor down, that's looking less and less likely. Look at the damage Imbolite's started to pick up, too. He's got that death cap now. Flash lost about a fifth of his HP just from one dissonance. That can't be happening. They need to position properly in fights, they need to have better vision, and they need to weather this storm. They need to make it to the ultra late game at this point to come back into it. I don't think Exertus are going to want that to happen, though. They have plenty of opportunities right now if they want to go siege a little bit. Their siege is significantly better than it's been in the last few games with Lucian instead of, for example, Sivir. The question is, will Gangplank crit ever? Right? Because if he does, then Chaos Storm might clean up.
And in fairness to Flash, he does have a very impressive scoreline. You can see 2-2-3. He hasn't been involved in many kills, but still he's doing a good job of not dying, which kind of what you wish for from your mid and AD carry, really. But unfortunately, without this lack of frontline, it's been very difficult for Team Paria. And we talked originally how we felt like a triple threat comp would just work for them extremely well, but it just hasn't really panned out, and that's all thanks to the impressive performance coming out from Chriso in this top lane. So, such a dominant player in this best-of-3 series.
Let's not forget Subatomic either. I mean, 8-1-10, yeah, that's impressive, but 13-1-7 isn't bad either. And really, if he just dies 3 more times, it'll be even better.
Yeah, his positioning. Yeah, his positioning has been ideal this game. I say ideal. That's not quite the right word that I was after, but we have to also give massive props to Wiz, because every single team fight, his exhaust seems to be on point. He seems to put focus exactly on the right target. He knows exactly who he needs to be focusing, who he needs to be crowd controlling, where he needs to be getting that exhaust on top of, and he's had a fantastic game. 0-2-20, a ridiculous kill participation score, and you know, fair play to him. He has decided actually to go for the new updated Zeke's Herald as well.
It's a cool item to grab, and I actually think it will work quite nicely here, to be honest. You know, Lucian has built a lot of damage by going a Bloodthirster now, so giving him some extra attack speed, not something you're going to complain about, that is for sure. Also, interesting item pickups. You've got an updated random Zenman on both sides, so they're both giving importance to that item. We've just seen a Blade of the Ruin King picked up on Pugs, but still no crit, still no armor penetration. How useful is that realistically going to be against Sunfire Cave, against Random, against Frozen Heart? You know, I mean, I'm not sure about that one, to be honest.
Let's see if Memphis can get another steal off.
He kind of needs to, I gotta be honest.
And they're going to disengage away from the Baron.
So much damage coming in from that cannon barrage.
But yeah, it does appear that they are going to disengage, so Exertus going to reclaim vision around this Baron area, but plenty of wards available to the side of Team Paria, and with that middle inhibitor, there's not much pressure really being applied to them. And we should also note that Black Cleaver now completed on Chriso. He is so strong right now, full build, level 18, nearly 400 farm. He's actually been getting, he's got 394 farm at 39 minutes. That's insane. That's incredible.
It's insane.
And he is far, far, far ahead of any other member in the game, and very impressive performance from Chriso. Like,
I wonder if his CS score is actually the highest in the Premiership, because that is ridiculous. Especially when you consider that he's also been a part of 18 kills and died once. You know, to maintain that kind of farm amongst those kill participation stats is like almost unheard of. That is just ridiculous.
Yeah, but at the moment we are in a bit of a lull. I feel as though Exertus can't really figure out what to do. They keep hanging around this Baron because what they really want to do is they want to bait Team Paria into a fight. But I don't think Team Paria are really taking the bait. They're just hanging around, they're poking around. They've got plenty of wards available to them so they can keep vision hanging around this area. And now it does look like Exertus have decided, right, okay, we're going to send Chriso mid and he's going to apply pressure onto this inhibitor.
Yeah, and after having spotted out on best support, they feel a little bit more confident now, making a proper start onto this Baron. Cannon Barrage is actually up after just being used, but means the big thing is whether or not he's going to be able to steal it. LoL joke, Exertus just going to back up. I don't know why they are so afraid of Cannon Barrage. Yes, the slow is a bit worrisome, but it's not as if it's doing damage. It is just tickling them at this point.
Well, I feel as though it's the additional Baron Darrens that's coming on top of them as well, and I think they just don't want to take too many risks. They know at this point 40 minutes death times are going to be big, and if they screw up one little fight, then things are going to be pretty awful for them. And Tan taking a chunk of damage, and maybe, just maybe, Team Paria are going to be able to take a step break.
It would be very good for them if they can. The fact that they would get that bonus damage when it comes to dealing with I believe it's towers and buildings, does set them up nicely for if they ever get ahead. But whether or not they will or not is yet to be determined. I think they kind of wish right now that they still got the bonus minion damage at this point, because wave clear would be a lot more useful.
So Cutie Bacon Piggy is really upsetting me because he should have a Void Staff now. That's what he should be working towards. I know maybe he's working towards an Hourglass to get some defenses against defenses against Chriso, but you know, the best defense for a mage is a good offense, and why not kill Chriso before he even gets on top of you? And with a Void Staff, that would really, really help. But I feel as though all that Hourglass is going to do for him at this point is buy him 2 seconds before Chriso kills him.
Delay the inevitable.
Yes. But now we do have a last Whisper finally completed for Pug.
Holy
we
moly.
are reaching these late stages of the game, and I feel fights might be a little bit closer now, but maybe they're going to get caught out once again.
We still need one more item on Pugs before I think they're going to be able to test the problem. We need crits of some description.
He's going to go defensive. He's either going to go for a QSS or he's going to go for that Banshee's Veil.
I don't think he can afford to, though. It's very risky. Oh my god, support every single time. But Fate's Call does keep him out of there for now. Maybe they're actually... Oh, they dodged the Shockwave. That is a big skill to avoid. Krista coming in here does force the Flash.
4 ults down.
Yeah, there are a lot of ultimates down right now. Flash, though, is getting caught out a little bit. We're going to see Memes jump right in the back. Subatomic does get caught out. No one is helping Memes on him, though. Need to just taking so much damage. Subatomic is doing a ridiculous amount in the back line. Ren does a lot, though. Actually, a lot of low members on the side of Exertus, but it's the same old story. They all get low, and no one can finish them off. Pugs nearly getting caught out. Oh, my God. Concussive blows manages to hit him after the Flash. I think that might be game VDS, unless some big barrel crits can come out on everyone from Flash. Keep him off this Nexus.
They do still have Flash available. His ultimate isn't going to be up for a little while, so the wave clear isn't quite there yet. Nevertheless, Chriso is just so unbelievably tanky, and you saw that there, tanking up pretty much the entire members of Team Paria. It's just, God damn it, Chriso, why are you so good on this champion? They are going to push onto these inhibitor towers. Can Team Paria do anything?
Oh, well, apparently not for Flash, because he is going to get caught out, instantly popped. Death timers are very long on everyone except for Memesies. He is not going to be able to deal with this push by himself. That is going to be the series going over to Exertus. Paria, man, they looked so promising coming out of that second game, but they just couldn't shore up some of their weaknesses in that third game.
No, unfortunately for Team Paria, they are going to lose out to Exertus Esports in a 2-1 best of 3. And that triple threat composition we saw come out for Team from Paria, I really felt like that is what they needed. I felt like that would really suit their style and it would do a lot of good for them. But unfortunately, it didn't work out.